I tell my audience that ProPublica is my favorite white-owned news outlet. You guys do some amazing work, and I am just always grateful that long-form journalism is still a thing, and that you all do it very well. We had talked a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of days ago, rather, on this show about this article that looked at abortion bans and how they are delaying medical care, and you all highlighted one particular story of Amber Thurman. But from my understanding, the investigative reporting that you and your colleagues have been involved in really have uncovered that there are stories like Amber Thurman's all across the country. Talk to us about what Americans need to know about the impact of these abortion bans.
Yes, thank you for having me. We think this is really important that people understand that doctors warned this would happen before these abortion bans were passed. These are people who know that a pregnancy can go wrong at any time during the 38, 39 weeks that women are pregnant, not to mention that women get in situations where they are not prepared to have a child. So I think what people need to know is that Georgia happens to have very good and transparent death records. It's the first place we looked because we can see all of the folks who died in Georgia from all reasons, and we were able to pretty quickly find a dozen cases that looked like they might be preventable, but you need to know more. And so the first two families that agreed to talk to us, and this was hard, painstaking work, walking along with these families. We refused to do these stories without the family's involvement. And what we learned is both of these deaths were preventable. According to Georgia's board that reviews these deaths, which has 10 doctors on it.
Wow.
Yeah, so we have a large team of 20 or more journalists who are looking in similar ways in other states. We're very interested in hearing from families who may not have all the information, but know that a loved one who was pregnant went to the ER and died, and they still have questions. ProPublica is learning a lot from talking to experts about ways that women can die under abortion bans. We're very interested in hearing from them. At the end of the show, I can give you some contact information.
That would be great. And the word preventable is something that's been ringing in my ears. Madam Vice President Kamala Harris and Oprah Winfrey sat down a couple of weeks ago, and Amber Thurman's family, her mother and sisters were there, and they were learning almost in real time that their loved one, their daughter, their sister had died in a way that I thought was absolutely horrifying. To know that your loved one has gone to the medical professionals, and after having to travel out of state to go all the way into North Carolina, get stuck in traffic and miss the 15-minute grace period to have the surgical abortion there in North Carolina, where it was still safe and legal for her to have it. They gave her the abortion medications. She takes one, she goes back, and unfortunately everything did not expel. For her to go to the doctor and essentially in the emergency room told that she's just waiting. And one of the things that hurt me so bad to read, but I was so glad that you all kept it in, was the timeline. She's there, and all the other forms of medical intervention that they engaged in. They gave her medicine that wasn't even related to what she was dealing with. There were so many forms of medical intervention except the one form of intervention that she needed, which was the DNC that would have cleansed everything else out of her. What did not get cleansed out turns toxic. And so to me, this is a situation where we hear a lot about how, well, doctors, life of the mother. If the life of the mother is at risk, then the doctor will be able to intervene. Her life was at risk, and yet they did not intervene until 20 hours later. What did that tell you and your team of journalists about whether or not these exceptions are actually distinctions without difference, or if they mean anything when it comes to real life and death decisions?
Such a good summary of our reporting of Amber Nicole Thurman's death. She, did wait in the hospital for 20 hours. She came in and told them, I had taken abortion medication. I'm still bleeding. It was very clear that she had unexpelled tissue, which is a very rare side effect of abortion medication. It happens in about 3% of cases. I will say that the talking point of the pro-life folks who've, talked about this story is that abortion medication is at fault. It is safer than Viagra and penicillin.
Come on.
Statistically, 6 million people have taken it since it was approved, and we've had about 11 deaths from this kind of cause, probably where people didn't get treatment quickly. So she didn't get treatment for 20 hours. We don't know what was in the doctor's minds, but the one thing that every medical professional told us that should have been done was not done. And a raging infection was allowed to take hold of her body. And then when they finally decided to do the one thing that they knew they should do, it was too late. So Again, we don't know what's in their minds. I will say in the second case we wrote about, Candy Miller, the board did say not only is it preventable, but the state's abortion ban was directly to blame because she was afraid to even go and seek help when she had the same thing happen. And this was 5 months after that ban was passed. And so, that culture of fear, what people tell us is that is a feature and not a bug. The confusion that in doctors' minds about when is someone close enough to death for me to operate, that's what these exceptions cause.
Right. There is two lines in the article about Amber Thurman, and it says when the law went into effect in July of 2022, Governor Brian Kemp, that's Georgia State Governor Brian Kemp, said he was overjoyed and believed that the state had found an approach that would keep women safe, healthy, and informed. After advocates tried to block the ban in court, arguing the law put women in danger, attorneys for the state of Georgia accused them of, quote, hyperbolic fear mongering. 2 weeks later, Thurman was dead. And that chilled me to the bone because it has felt like many of us who have been sounding the alarm on these issues are often said, it's said of us that we are being hyperbolic, we're exaggerating, it's really not going to cause this sort of fallout. It absolutely is. And I guess my question for you is when this happens, when Amber Nicole Thurman's family found out that this was preventable, is there any legal recourse available to them? Are they able to file suits for damages against the hospitals and the medical professionals that were involved? Or are they simply left with this was against the law, or the law is a protective shield against them even being able to close that door?
Yeah. So they do have, one of the best and most active civil rights attorneys in the country, Ben Crump, on their side. I have great faith that Attorney Crump is going to find legal recourse there if it's available. The interesting thing about the way these maternal mortality boards work in these abortion ban states is that, for years, these boards have reviewed how women have died in childbirth and tried to make the situation better, tried to solve problems, but it's all very anonymous. The families aren't told what the outcome, this result that it was preventable. They didn't know that. We told them. And so, a lot of times they don't have the names of the patient. They may not, in some states, they don't even know what hospital this happened at. And their reports just sort of go into this void, just sort of delivered to the same lawmakers who passed the abortion bans. So, I think that, there's not transparency. I think there needs to be more transparency in terms of how are women dying, especially if it's abortion ban related. In Texas, they literally have a law that says our board cannot consider any deaths that are related to even a therapeutic abortion, which is done when someone's life is in jeopardy. So they are willfully blinding themselves from deaths that are occurring because of their law.
So, I think in a fanciful view of the world, some might say, well, my medical doctor knows me. There's no way that they would allow this to happen to me. Or there's no way a doctor who is supposed to be about preserving life would allow something like this to take place. But there are some real risks for the medical professionals and the medical communities in some of these legislative acts. Talk to us about what a doctor risks by deciding to move forward with an abortion before. And we were just reading in the state of Florida, one of the things that they require is you have to have two doctors who sign off on a notification that this procedure is absolutely necessary. And if you only have the one and not the two, and I don't know where you get the second one from, is this like a second opinion? Is it a doctor that you don't even know and they're just looking at your records? There are some real risks for the medical professionals as well. Talk to us about what those look like.
Yeah, so in Georgia, a doctor who performs an abortion that is later determined, remember, these are all Monday morning quarterbacking decisions, I
Wow.
guess by a jury. You have to risk that you go ahead and perform an abortion as this doctor, and then the prosecutor decides to charge you. So you go through investigation, arrest, charge, trial before you know whether a jury agrees that what you did months and months ago was under the law. And so they face a felony, they face loss of their license, they face 10 years in prison. Some states they face up to life, depending on the case. Many of these abortion ban states do criminalize the actions of doctors. And so it's no wonder that there's fear. And if you have to get two doctors, and not to mention hospital lawyers, together in a situation where someone's health is declining rapidly because sepsis is setting in, that is a recipe for death. And that's what we've seen happen.
Right. And so one of the things that struck me about this, and because I definitely want to get a hold of those resources for people who are wanting to speak with ProPublica and to find out more information, one of the things that has also been concerning is the fact that the boards that you're working with, particularly in Georgia, there's a time delay. So they're looking back 2 years. So we don't even know where the 2023, 2024 realities are. This is almost like looking at a snapshot of time gone past. So give us a sense as to what complications that delay in, because these review boards are not all, it's not happening in real time. This is something that Amber Thurman's case was in 2022. We now know about it because of this reporting. Give us a sense as to the way that these boards are structured that can also impede our ability to know what's really going on.
That's such a great point. And that is something that we are definitely looking into more, that we're digging into as we speak. And that is the delays of the maternal mortality board. So the Georgia board is 2 years behind. Most of these boards are 2 years behind in looking at cases of women dying, pregnant women dying or shortly after pregnancy. And why did they die? This is the CDC gathers all this information and then tries to make better policy to help women be healthy in childbirth. And so Texas is 4 years behind. They just issued a report based on maternal deaths in 2020. Texas has the oldest abortion ban in the nation. It went into effect in September of 2021. So even Texas is not to that point of reviewing deaths that happened in their abortion ban. Georgia is just getting to those cases. So we are actively engaged in talking to maternal mortality boards about where they are in the process. What resources do they need? One interesting fact is that a lot of these states spend hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars on crisis pregnancy centers. These are places where women are essentially, they try to talk women out of having abortions in states where they can't even get them. And we had an earlier investigation that didn't find any evidence that there is large scale help going on through those CPCs, diapers, formula, car seats. So, maybe direct a little bit of that money away from those places and into maternal mortality boards so that they can do their work. It is painstaking. They have to go through thousands of pages of medical records. But I believe if they have more resources, they might be moving faster.
Yeah. So for folks who are curious about family members, if they have their own stories that they want to share, what would be the best way for them to, what types of stories are you looking to uncover at ProPublica and to amplify? And what would be the best way for them to reach out?
Sure. So we have a general email, reproductivehealth@propublica.org. And if folks want to know how to contact us securely, we also have encrypted signal phone numbers that are on our website. If you go to our Life of the Mother coverage on propublica.org, it's right there on the top of the page. We have a whole story that says how to get in touch with us. And not only that, why you should trust us, with examples of past work that we've done on maternal health, on the working rights of immigrant laborers, and how we protected people and how we do that. So reproductive health at propublica.org will get you started. And then if you want to talk in an encrypted way, we'll give you there's a special phone number you can call that is completely private. We waited for a year for Amber Thurman's family to decide whether they wanted to talk with us. And we take that very seriously in building trust with families, because these are sensitive, private healthcare issues for people.
Yeah.
And there's religious issues involved, and families all have different perspectives. So we know these are real people's lives we're writing about, and we care about doing it right.
Yeah, I will say I very much appreciate this information, and I love that, and I haven't noticed this on other outlets. I don't know if other outlets are doing it, but I do love that on your articles you have, why should I trust your reporting, and then a little blurb from the reporter and what they've done and how their methodology behind it. And then if you have questions, you have information right there. So again, speaks a lot to the journalistic integrity that you all are doing your best to uphold at ProPublica. Thank you so much for this information. These are really hard articles to get through, but absolutely necessary for this time. Really appreciate you giving us some of your time today.
Thank you so much. I think it's really important that your audience hear this. This is a large outsized impact on women of color, and we especially want them to know that we're fighting for them and for them to reach out.
Appreciate you, Ziva. Thank you so much. Hope we can get you back on.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.